Hello everyone. In this video, I'll show you how to test Redux reducers in the Redux state management portion of your React and Next.js applications. So oftentimes, the Redux reducers of our React and Next.js applications gets overlooked in terms of unit testing. So let's fix that by actually writing tests for our Redux reducers. In this video, I'll show you how to do that using an example Next.js application. So this is the application you see here. It's a basic e-commerce site. And this is the application we're using. And here is the GitHub repo for this application. I will attach a GitHub repo link in the video description so you can check it out. And this is a Next.js application. So first, start by cloning this application. So you have this URL, just copy it, go to a VS Code terminal or any other terminal, and then enter git clone that URL, and then you should have a local copy and just open it up in your favorite code editor. Alternatively, if you want to follow along with a different Next.js app or even a React app, feel free to do so. The tests to be covered in this blog post are also applicable for React.js apps because Next.js is basically a framework that's built on top of React.js libraries. So all the tests we apply for Next.js are applicable for React apps as well. So before I start writing the tests or demonstrating the tests we've written for these Redux reducers, let's give a quick overview of how Redux is used in this application. So this is basically a basic e-commerce site, nothing fancy, but it basically allows users to sign in, and you can sign in using Google, using OAuth 2. And once the user is signed in, you can view available products available for purchase. You can add it to a cart, and you can proceed to checkout. You can sign in again and complete the process. It has a profile listing all the orders that were purchased by the user. And so that's our application. It uses Redux to manage the shopping cart. So as you see here, the customer orders, as you see here in these orders list. And it uses a Redux to store the products as well. So all these products are stored or managed using Redux. And it also manages the user sign in and sign out status. So sign in and sign out status. So next, I want to quickly cover the store.js file, which can be considered the central file in a Redux, Redux portion of your applications, because here is where we aggregate all our reducers and use combine reducer to list all the reducers and their corresponding actions, and then create that store. So we say combine all these reducers. You can see an overarching theme here. So there's product reducers, there's user reducers, there's a cart reducer, and then there's an order reducer. So those are the four main types of reducers for which we'll add unit tests for. And then we create the reducer using create store. The initial state. So the initial state is an object that shall be used as a central repository for managing the state of the application. So it'll have the cart, it'll have a cart items list or an object, and shipping, payment, and the users user authentication info after they sign in, and then we export the store. So now let's briefly touch the reducer files. So these are the reducers we'll be testing. So it's cart reducer, order reducer, product reducer, and user reducer. So that's it for the demonstrating part. So let's get testing. So let's start now. Okay, we can start by focusing on the card producers.spec.js file. So let's first go over what this file does. So firstly, it contains a test. It's enclosed in a describe statement. So starting from the top, when we first we import the card producer via card producers and the require statement. Then we import the text constants needed for this validation. So these text constants are uh, used to differentiate our actions, which are used, which are identified by our reducers. So this switch statement uses these constants defined here to decide which action to call. Next, the describe statement is used, as the name implies, to describe the test suite that the file contains. Next, a mock state variable called mock card state is defined. This variable is used to define the default state when testing our reducers. The it method is used to identify each individual test. Any code inside it will be run whenever running the command jest. Now, the expected result variable is used as a comparison object against which the real result from the card producer can be used to compare to. For now, it contains a single product, so it's a single product contained within this card items array. And we're going to compare this product with the one that is actually received. So the mock action is the second argument that is passed into the card producer. It contains the type of action, which is card add item, and the payload, which is the same kettlebell product that we are mentioning in the expected results object. After calling card producer with the mock state and the mocked action, which we defined here, we receive an output variable called card add item result. Now we can compare this result with the expected result. And if they're equal, then we know that uh, add our reducer's add card item action is working as expected. So a lot of the tests that we're doing will follow this theme where we define an expected result, we pass in a mock action, and then we save the actual result and we compare the actual result to our expected result. So let's move on to our second card reducer test. So this test is designed to test the delete cart functionality. Sorry, it's not this one. It's this one. So this reducer is designed to test the delete functionality. And what we do here is similar to the last test. We insert a item using card add item first. We insert that item and then we assert that the actual length of the card items store is equal to 1. So once we've inserted that item, the card items Redux store variable will be incremented to 1, and then we assert that. Next, uh, we call the card remove method or create a mock delete action. The payload of this action contains the same product ID so that the newly added item can be targeted. Finally, we call the card producer and we pass in the mock delete action object, and then we save that result. And since the card items should be deleted, we assert that it should be equal to 0. So basically we add an item and then we delete it, and then assert the cart item's length is 0. So that's the basic structure for a delete scenario for our test cases. So now let's move on to the third um, test case for cart reducers. So this test is designed to test the ability to save an instance of shipping information into the cart Redux store variable. So we basically assert that this shipping information object is saved. First, we create the shipping action containing the cart save shipping action and the payload containing an instance of shipping information. Next, the cart reducer is called when the mocked shipping action and result is saved into the and then so first the cart reducer is called and then we save the response to this variable, and then we examine that variable's properties, and then we assert that the payload's address should equal the actual result variable's address, and we do the same for all four fields. So that's pretty straightforward, hopefully. So now let's go on to our order reducers file. So this is our second aspect of this application. Now let's go over our first test. So this test is designed to test the order create success use case. So basically, whenever an order is successfully created, that order should be returned as an object in the payload. And what we're doing here is we're asserting that an object is returned in the payload. So as you see in the mock action object, we have an order and it is quite long. So an order can contain multiple order items, and we have chosen to include 3 order items. So there's a bag of cement, a kettlebell, and some running shoes. They have their respective fields, they have their quantities, and it's contained within the order items array. Next, we have our shipping. So this is basically where we want our order to be shipped to. Next, we have our payment. So we're paying with Stripe. We could add further details, but for the sake of simplicity, I just left it as payment. Next, we have our price items. Items price is basically the total of all the items in our order items array, including the quantity. So if it said 2 here, then the price would be multiplied by 2, so 30 plus whatever the others equal. Next, we have the shipping price. That's the price needed to ship the product to the user's home. Tax price, pretty self-explanatory, and then we have the total price. So total price is items price, shipping price, and tax price combined, and that should equal all 3 fields. So it's accordingly has the value of 70. And finally, we have the user's email address. So now this is our mocked action, which we pass into our reducer. And similarly, we've created an expected results object. And notice that the order field contains the exact same order that is mentioned in the mocked action. It is the exact same object because we are expecting the same object. And we have some additional fields. So we have success should be true, loading should be false. So when we receive that actual response, we want it to be successful and we want it to not be loading. Next, we save the result from order create reducer, and then we compare expected result with order create result. So we compare the actual result with the expected result, and hopefully it should equal. It should be the exact same. So now let's move on to the second test for this file. Which is order list success. Yeah. So this test is designed to validate that we call the order reducer for a list of orders that um, three order objects are received in the response. So when we call this order list success Redux reducer, it should um, return a list of three order objects. And this is because we have a mocked action. And we're passing in this action to our reducer. And this is going to be our total amount of orders. So when we pass in a order list success type to our reducer, it's going to return everything that was just received. So we just basically validate that the actual result orders array equals 3. So actual will be an object. It'll contain an orders array, and that array should equal 3 because we passed in 3 objects. As you can tell, it's pretty self-explanatory, and the main idea I hope you can infer is that the structure of how we're testing these Redux reducers. And so let's move on to the product reducer, which is our third type of reducer in our application. So for the first test, we have product list success, or product save success actually. Since we've already covered a list scenario, let's cover a save scenario. So this test is designed to test the product save functionality of the product reducer. First, we pass in a sample product object in the payload field of the mock action. Then an expected result object containing the same product object is created. So right here, so we have a product right here, and then we're expecting that exact same product to be returned once we save it. So that's how we would validate that the save was went through successfully. And we also mentioned that it should return success true and loading false. And so we call our actual result, save our actual result, and compare our expected result to our actual result. And in case you're wondering why we have our loading and success fields, so here we can see that the reducer that we previously covered is going to go through here. It's going to call our action, and then it's going to get the payload returned from that action and assign it to the payload, the product field. It's going to set the value of success to true, loading to false, and then it's going to return that object. So that's what we're testing right here. So now let's go through another product reducer test. So let's test the delete functionality. Product delete. So this test is designed to test the product delete functionality of the product reducer. First, we create a mocked action, and it basically has the type delete success, and it has a payload with a product ID of the object or product to be deleted. So we want the product ID of 1 to be deleted. Next, we create an expected result object containing the product ID of 1, so meaning that the delete was successful. The logic was able to find that product and then delete it. And we then call the product delete reducer, save the result to actual result, and then compare the actual result to expected result. So as you can tell, it's the very there's a common theme in all these Redux reducer tests, and it's basically just passing in a mocked action, creating a expected result object beforehand, saving the actual result, and then comparing the actual result to the expected result. Initially, it seemed kind of redundant to do them, but I believe it's prudent to do so. Unit tests for testing your Redux reducers, although they're not, the most useful things because you've come to expect that they should work as expected. They can be useful, and if you have the time, it's encouraged that you add them to your applications. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you now have a better idea on how to test Redux reducers for your Next.js and React applications. If you have any feedback or questions, you can post them in a comment. Thanks for watching my video. If you found it helpful, feel free to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.